We're starting today's session out with a Slido poll. Our topic for today has to do with how we reach out, how we communicate with our students. What you wish to say, how you communicate with students, Salesforce, CRM, announcements, absolutely, email. Okay, those are some very effective tools. And we'll be talking more about that. Your announcements are definitely a key point. Assignment feedback, yes, thank you for that, because that is both a communication tool as well as a learning tool, a way that our students learn what their expectations are. So thank you for that. Assignment feedback is an excellent one. Anything else? What else do we have to share in here? How do you communicate with your students? What about in your office visits? What about the Q&A in your courses? We have a lot of tools. We'll be talking about more of them as we go forward. Communication tools. And what I have subtitled this is, what's your why? And I will be sharing with you in a few minutes the reason I looked at it that way. And I've had a kind of an ongoing conversation with a faculty member asking about some of these things. So we will get to that in just a moment. So here's what we're going to do today. We are going to share some ideas and thoughts about the communication tools that we use, our go-to ones, and maybe help you get some new tools or take a new perspective on them. We're going to think about the reasons that we want to communicate or connect with our students. That might seem to be a pretty obvious question, but I do want you to think about the why we're doing things the way we are doing them. And I'll share that a little bit more about that later. We are going to take a deeper dive into the communication policy that is typically included with the courses, particularly the courses that come through our department. And we're also going to take a deeper dive into the Quality Matters standards. I apologize for that, but QM represents Quality Matters, and that's the foundation of those standards, is the foundation of how and why we build courses the way we do. So hopefully by the end of this, you will be able to think about a new perspective on some of the tools, and maybe a new perspective on some of the tools that you use, and maybe even some new tools that someone else has shared. Some of the reasons that we think about, that we want to communicate, and one has to do with that rapport, making sure that we can stay connected with our students so that we know that they are with us as we move them through the course information. But to build that rapport, we need to make sure that we have included items that share mutual respect. We need to make sure that they know that as instructors, we are always approachable, that we care about where they are headed and how they're going to get there, and that we share a positive attitude about what we want to accomplish and we want them to accomplish. But we also want to keep in mind our ultimate outcomes, our goals. We want to make sure that we are able to keep our students motivated, and communication with them, regular communication, is strong way of making sure that we can motivate them. We want to make sure that they are comfortable in what they need to do as they're moving through the courses that we work on with them. We also, and it is really important that we share with them the fact that they are in a course that is a high quality course, and they are going to come out of it with some very important objectives, that they're going to come out of it knowing material that they did not know before, that they are going to be satisfied with where they are, as well as that you will be satisfied with where they are. And we are using communication tools to establish that trust so that they are with us throughout the session. However, the big reason to communicate is for student success. We want to promote their success throughout the course. We want everything that we do to be geared toward helping them be successful in the course. And so now I'm going to share with you some of the interaction that has led me to want to share this information with you. So I have a why. I have a how would you respond? I have the luxury of being able to work with a lot of really, really wonderful faculty. And I have some interactions that have taken place with someone that I am working with. And she is a relatively new adjunct, and she is also relatively new to synchronous, to the whole online concept. She is, however, a very experienced instructor. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit of the interaction that she and I have had, going back and forth, several emails back and forth recently. So she shared with me that she said, I've had my my first week of classes. And the first week was really just introduction to the class week. She indicated that she had done some sharing the ideas from the syllabus and sharing their introductions and getting them comfortable with where they were in the class, where they are in the class. And as she was going through that, she made the due dates for the assignments on Sunday at 11:59. Does that sound familiar? I would think that it might very well sound familiar. But then she said, I'm starting to question whether or not this is ideal. She said, is there a standard that I'm supposed to follow? Is that how it's supposed to be set up? For synchronous classes or asynchronous classes, rather, do I have to set them up at a specific time? I'm not really sure what works best for my students. And so my next Slido is, if this were an adjunct in your department and she came to you with these questions, how would you respond? For a faculty member who comes to you with these concerns about being a new, relatively new adjunct in your department, she's wondering if the 11:59 on Sunday is the best time. What response would you provide for her? Okay. That the students might be used to that structure, so it might be more convenient to keep it that way. What are your students going through? Whatever's chosen, be consistent. Yeah, definitely. And AM and PM can be tricky. So here's a comment. Sunday might be difficult for some students. What about making a Monday or Tuesday deadline? And then the other one that is that I did not read yet. Most students seem to be working on the weekends, so weekend due dates seem to be preferred. But, and this is one of the questions that I try to bring up with faculty. This person has said, I inform them to ask questions before the weekend so that they get a response before they plan to complete the assignment. Excellent, excellent thoughts. And that is one of the things that we try to mention to faculty. And of course, it is totally, absolutely your call, your decision about when you make the due dates. There is not really a university standard, or at least not as far as I'm aware of, and I've been teaching here for a while. But so we try to make sure that they know that there is some flexibility. If they are working on the assignment and have some questions about it, can they reach out and get the information that they need to know before they have to submit? Or is there flexibility in the deadlines and the due date? Okay, any other responses in here? Consistency is absolutely a key in everything that we do. Thank you for that. Yeah, and the question about AM and PM, I think that's probably why the 11:59 tends to come up by default rather than 12 o'clock, because then we don't, you know, in my mind, I'm never completely sure. As we're building courses and teaching, our students are the customers. So I love this, where all the different little colored gumballs. What my response to her was essentially, first of all, the fact that she even questioned it, I thought was an interesting perspective. And as I said, I will often suggest a Monday or Tuesday due date in case they do run into a question. And as faculty, we may not be completely available on Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening. I have one person that I work with that sets 10 o'clock because she wants to respect everybody's natural rest time, because I don't know about you, but I tend to be a little more deadline driven than I care to admit, and tend to work really toward that deadline. So my suggestion to her was that she share her concerns with the students and find out what their preferences might be. Offer a couple of dates and perhaps let them kind of take a poll with them. And of course, we know that discussions need to have 2 dates, although the date that we put in Canvas is always the final due date, but we also need to make sure that we always address the fact that they need to make their initial post a couple of days earlier so people can respond. And so the rest of the story is a couple of days later, she wrote back and said, here is what I want to send out to my students. And she said, she addressed the fact that currently assignments are set up for Sundays at 11:59. But it seems that this may not be the most effective schedule for this particular class. And so she said she was changing the due dates, the weekly due dates, and she presented them with what seems like it might be a fairly complex schedule, but she also, you know, as far as when different types of assignments would be due. But she also let them know that she would include reminders include items in the announcements, letting them know what is coming up and how to do. But her last paragraph really said it all. She said, I know from the survey, so she did do a survey with them, that most of you work and many of you are primary caregivers. And she said, I hope this schedule will help you keep on track throughout each module and provide you with opportunities, multiple opportunities to engage with the material in the class. And so I wanted to share that with you. And that interaction is what caused me to say, I wonder it to myself, that is, I wonder if there are other things that we just tend to do just because. And I know a couple of you mentioned in our survey that we just did that this is the expectation of most students, and it may well be. And of course, if it's a later due date, they can submit it on Sunday if they are so inclined. So at this point, because I am also a strong believer in retrieval practice, I would like for you to, on a paper, if you have a notepad in front of you, or make yourself a mental note, to think about 2 whys about communication with our students. What tools or communication strategies seem to be most effective for your students? What have you tried? What seems to work? Or you could also put things that didn't work as well as you thought they were going to. I tend to have a nice list of those types of things, but what seems to be effective for your students? Oh, I love that. Video announcements absolutely are strong points for them. Thank you. Yeah. Regular announcements so that they know to expect them, but video announcements are a very effective one and easy to do in Canvas. We can set it up through Canvas itself or use Screencast-O-Matic. Reminders about announcements. Reminders about assignments through the announcement, and send reminders just before the deadlines to make sure that they haven't forgotten about it, or if it hasn't been submitted because they have a question, that you're available to respond to those questions. Yeah, absolutely. Those gentle reminders, yes, it might seem like extra work on your part, but if it's supporting our student success, then I think it probably is definitely worth it. Any other strategies that are effective for them? And those reminders go out to just the students who haven't submitted it yet. I didn't even catch that the first time I looked at it. Yes, and a quick note saying, do you have a question about it? Is there something that I can do to help, or how are we moving forward with it? That's an important piece of that. I'm going to move this back out of the way so I can go on to the next page. Checking our time to make sure, because we do have a couple of other things I want to include. If you have worked with our department, the Center for Online and Continuing Education, with the course build, you know that we definitely include a communication policy. And the traditional joke is, it's in the syllabus. It's in the syllabus. It's in the syllabus. And I love those little cartoons that share that. So this is typically what is in, it is in our syllabus template. these are the guidelines that you will find in the syllabus, that the emails, we will respond to the emails within 24 to 48 hours. And within the syllabus, it says weekends and holidays, an exception for weekends and holidays. I think I'm not sure how often we actually hold to that, because if they're due on Sunday, we want to make sure that we're there for them. Also, within the communication policy listed in the syllabus and in the Start Here module, actually, is that you'll receive feedback on your assignments within a week. And the exceptions would be if they need that feedback in order to proceed with the next part of the assignment, or if it's something that is a long-term process and a larger assignment, and you might need a little bit more time for helping them, guiding them through it. Okay. And the other item that's usually in the communication policy has to do with course-related questions. And the courses are usually built with what we refer to as an FAQ. It actually winds up being a Q&A, a place to post any information or any questions that you may have about the assignment. So, and most of your students, or you would make your students aware of the fact that that Q&A or FAQ is there, and it's a place to check. If they have a question, to check there first. It isn't always terribly successful to invite them to do that, but suggest that they check in there to see if someone else has asked the question, and perhaps someone else even has also already responded to it. And of course, as the instructor, you would respond as well, so that the students do get a correct response. So this is the information that you will find in the communication policy in the syllabus template that we share with you, as well as in the communication plan in the Start Here module. So that's, and you, of course, are welcome and invited to make whatever changes and adjustments in that, so that your students know that you are available and when you will be available, and when to expect your comments. And one of you mentioned that the feedback on assignments was a great communication tool, and it definitely is a great communication and a learning tool. Okay, so now let's take a look at another really important piece of this puzzle here. The concept of quality. I think most of you are probably aware of the fact that our courses, our course template is built in order to assure that there's quality built into the courses. And what I have done here is list some of the ones that from the Quality Matters rubric that reference communication. So right at the outset, one of the first ones in the first part of the Quality Matters rubric is that communication expectations are clearly stated. It's important for the students to see in the syllabus early on, in the course early on. We included in the Start Here module, and any place else, so that they know what the expectations are. That communication policy we just discussed. Again, in the first part of the Quality Matters rubric is that the course policies are clearly stated. And so this communication policy would be one of them, and that the students know just clicking on information about those policies gives them what they need to know in order to get themselves off to a good, solid start. The Quality Matters item 3.5 indicates that the course provides opportunities to track progress with timely feedback. And so that the feedback on those assignments is what gives them the opportunity to grow, to develop, to help them learn more about the expectations and provide that feedback in a manner so that they can also use it to make sure that they are staying on track with where they need to be in order to be successful in the course. And then another one of the Quality Matters standards indicates that the instructor's plan for interacting with learners is clearly stated. And that's, again, something that is included in multiple aspects of our courses, so that you let them know early on that what your expectation is, how they are going to, how you will be interacting with them, how they will be interacting with each other through discussions or group projects, and how they are expected to interact with the content for the course. So my next one is another opportunity for you to think about your own syllabus policy, your communication policy, and think about perhaps making some adjustments in that based on what your expectations for your students are and how you want them, how you want to support them as they move through the course. So take just a moment to, again, jot down any thoughts about how you might want to reevaluate, take another look at the policy that you have in your syllabus for effective communication and supporting their success. So we will be circling back around. So we're going to think once again about those communication tools that we've talked about. Some that you mentioned, some that you didn't. So we'll take a look at some of those. So let's rethink them. What about your announcements? We had a suggestion that video announcements, and in today's world, video is a very compelling component in our courses. We did not mention the course calendar, at least not specifically, but you did indicate that you wanted to put reminders in about it. So the course calendar could be an effective tool. You might even want to suggest at the outset that they create their own course calendar with giving them reminders for due dates. Discussion board, of course, is another place to communicate with them, give them feedback, and guide them through the topics for the discussions, giving them support in how they're thinking, what their thinking process is, and maybe a little bit of a nudge to have you thought about it in this way? What might happen if, in order for them to think through and take a different perspective on some of the things. Messages, and I will acknowledge that the message tool in Canvas is not one that I typically use, and I don't know why. I guess I just never really got into the habit of it, but there is a specific Canvas message board, and I have worked with some faculty that prefer to have that be their primary communication tool. And so as long as that is the case, and as long as you let them know that, then of course that would be another way of reaching out to the students. You also have the capability within Canvas of sending specific messages, as one of you mentioned in the effective communication tools, reaching out to those who had not yet submitted. So you have the means of being able to do that within your assignments. The FAQ discussion or the Q&A is a place to for them to ask questions, for you to suggest that they post their questions there, because typically if one person has a question, there's at least 3 others that might also have the same questions. So recommend that they get into the habit of going into that Q&A discussion, that FAQ discussion. And of course, our standard email. If you teach large courses, though, you probably don't want to suggest that they email you with their questions, but that is one of the tools that our students typically use. However, let's take a look at some others too. Even more rethinking than our tools. You mentioned video communication, and that is indeed a powerful, powerful way of reaching out to them. And the way our Canvas LMS is set up, it's really easy to just click in there, create a quick short video, maybe to answer a question or to clarify one of those muddy points that we talked about last week. We mentioned discussion boards as being a way of promoting giving them feedback and guiding them in the direction that they might not have thought about before. Rubrics, interestingly, and we didn't have anybody mention it, rubrics are a really effective communication tool, because when they see the rubric for the assignment, before they actually have to start on it, they know what your expectations are. Rubric or the checklist, they know what they have to make sure that they include in that assignment. The commons area for non-content discussions, and this could be that FAQ or Q&A topic, or it could be just chatting around the water cooler type of a discussion, a place for them to interact with each other and maybe for you to interact with them too, but not necessarily on questions, of course, related questions, but just to be able to interact. Synchronous office hours are a really effective tool, a way of letting them know that I will be available on Zoom at such and such a time. I invite you to come in and ask your questions, and you may need to set up specific times depending on the size of your classes, but letting them know that, hey, I will be available at this time. Yes, it can get frustrating if nobody joins you. On the other hand, at least you have reached out, you've let them know that you're there, you're available for them. Captioned video, the videos that you create through our media department always come back with closed captioning and or transcripts. Other videos from outside sources generally have closed captioning, and many people, in keeping with some of the universal design for learning, like to have both the captions and the video going as dual coding and other collaboration tools. Anything that you use, any group type of activities, anything where they can interact with you and with each other is an additional way of supporting the students. And so as we wrap this up, share any ideas or any thoughts that you've had, anything that maybe resonated with you from this today, or maybe something that you hadn't thought about before. Like I had the question from the faculty member who said, why does it always have to be Sunday night at 12:59? So what might be some thoughts or anything that might be something that you might want to think about adjusting or adding. And with that, I will say my next slide is my references, my resource listing. And well, I want you to know that I am delighted that you have chosen to spend your time with us today. We truly enjoy sharing these ideas and thoughts with you. Thank you again for joining us today, and thank you for being a part of what we do and how we do it and why we do it. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.